much as I would love to talk wrestling, we're here to talk to you, Allie. Talk to you about Allie, you've worked on all sorts of projects with Paizo, with Wizards of the Coast, Green Ronin as well, I think, and as well as your own stuff. A tremendous body of work, and so many books that we are excited about that are coming out in the next year or so. This is kind of the year of Mwangi and the year of Allie as well, I think, because your name is just on everything that's coming out. It's great. But I wanted to sort of start at the beginning. Like, what is your journey into making games? How did you come to be at the point where you're doing this sort of thing?
Well, once upon a time in Philly, where I grew up, I went to a weird little nerd con called PhilCon, and I did a LARP that was Vampire the Requiem. And I kind of like, I was like, this is fun. This is like acting, but also kind of not. And that's when I first started really getting into tabletop games. And then from there, it was like, well, I don't really like how this is working. Maybe I'll make my own way of doing it. And then I stopped playing tabletop games entirely for several years. But I got into a community that was pretty welcoming. Made some friends in there. We kind of made our own little community, and we started like hacking games and making our own small games. And it just kind of spiraled on from there with like people believing in me, basically.
Wow, that's and how do you end up how did you end up writing for Paizo, for example?
Uh, Basically knowing people, like being nice and knowing people and being like, hey, I'd like to write for some tabletop games. And I figured, all right, maybe I'll do some Kickstarter stretch goals. I've got like some things that I'm working on. I'll put those out, and then maybe someone will be like, "Hey, you want to write and monster and singular monster?" And then Paizo showed up and was like, "Hey, do you want to write like a adventure paths, one of the scenarios for
Wow.
the organized play?" And I was just like, well, I don't know how to say that I didn't really like Pathfinder before from previous group experiences, but sure, I'll give it a shot.
We'll just keep that
And
quiet. Yeah.
I mean, it's part of it where like I didn't like Pathfinder because of the group that I was playing with, not because I didn't really like Pathfinder. It is a little crunchier than I usually like, but some of the crunchiness does allow for like storytelling that I really enjoy doing.
Mm.
So it's give and take.
It's got kind of a there's like a crunch barrier with Pathfinder, isn't it? That you kind of
Yeah,
it's really hard until you break through it and understand it, and then suddenly it seems really easy because
yeah.
has sort of simple systems. Um, that's great. You obviously one of the things you got a lot of things coming out. The first thing coming out, which is it's going to be in July, is Lost Omens, Mwangi Expanse, which I think you've done quite a bit on. How did you end up
Yeah.
involved in that one? How do you go from sort of scenarios to working on a big Lost Omens book?
Well, actually, I can show you one second.
Oh, amazing.
This is exciting.
Yeah.
So, ooh, my necklace came off entirely. That's fine. I worked on these two books, Lost Omens
Sick.
Legends and Starship Operations Manual, in
I
the
have
time between.
I have
And
both of those. Mm.
Dan, did you just get a bit starstruck?
I did a little bit. I did. I really did.
I've known Dan for enough years, so I just see it looking like, oh my, I have those books. It's like, and that's amazing.
That's a great
um,
bit. I mean, yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, I worked on those, and I guess I did a good enough job that when I was like, okay, here's like some things I'd like to work on by order of priority, and I don't have to get everything, but yeah, I can probably write all of this. And then I got to write everything that I asked about. And it was a little bit overwhelming, but I got to write a lot of things that I wanted to see in tabletop games in general
Hmm.
into the Mwangi Expanse, because I don't know if you've noticed I'm black. So getting to write like Vidrian, which is the like kind of Caribbean analog, and like getting to put in experiences that I have as part of like the Black diaspora, and like writing, gosh, oh god, I wrote too many things. Writing like the Songo and talking to a friend about stick fighting, and then researching stick fighting and finding all of these different like methods of like hand-to-hand combat with just very thin sticks that exist all over the world as part of the Black diaspora. And it was fun to do and to learn all of these things while also creating something that I'd want to play in.
It sounds. I do wonder with that, with the with something like Mwangi, because it's. I think Garand and that whole continent is very undeveloped in first edition. You know, it's kind of and gets saddled a lot. Yeah. And they get saddled a lot with the kind of this is just the fantasy version of a real world place. And so you kind of in the north you have sort of the vampire land and the land with technology and barbarians and things. And then in the sort of the south you get this is Egypt but fantasy. This is Africa but fantasy. And we're not, and everything's kind of explored from looking out in, rather from the outside looking in rather than from the perspective of the people. But it means that kind of a lot of the lore that was there in first edition for Mwangi, I think there was quite a lot that was fairly colonial and problematic and has rightly been dropped. And we're sort of pleased to see that. But that must give you a very kind of a real blank slate to come and sort of write there. Is it daunting to come to something with that much freedom?
It really, really is, because it's probably less freedom than you're thinking, because you still have to keep to some expectations, but like trying to decolonize something that was written from a perspective where like if the, like if the Mwangi Expanse is basically like the jungle sub-Saharan Africa region, and you have all of your preconceived notions, it's like, okay, well, I'll take all of those out. I'll do my research on the actual area. I'll pull some things in, and then I need to make it fantasy and magical. And then you have to read back over and be like, did I do a colonialism? And just like figuring all of that out is daunting, because then you put it out in the world and you put it in print, and it's like that for a decade or more.
Yeah, that is going to be, especially with new ancestries and things like that. You're creating the blueprint of things that's going to endure for a long time. I on the ancestries, I heard that you wrote the Konrasu, didn't you, for it?
Yeah.
Tell us about the Konrasu, because I'm obsessed with them. They're so strange.
Well, how do I explain this? I tried to pull a little bit of like transhumanism and like androids and cyborgs, but also like keeping in mind the inspiration of, I think I made a mood board where it has a photo of parts of a tree trunk growing around bricks and like tree shaping, and making that a big part of the Karasu, but also transhumanism. And like, what would it look like if you say got rid of gender and it didn't really matter and you just kind of went with whatever people called you? Because I mean, as long as the humans are comfortable and you're getting done what you need to get done, who really cares?
Is that sort of your creative process? It feels like it's very kind of pulling ideas from different places. And yeah. Do you have a kind of structured way of when you're putting something like this together?
Sometimes it's structured. Usually it's not. Sometimes I'll be able to like pull together a playlist So while I'm working, I'll put the playlist on and that'll be my new music. But for Mwangi Expanse, there were just too many different things that I ended up working on that a playlist wasn't viable.
What was right? What's your favorite thing that you worked on of yours that's made it into the book?
Ooh. Um,
The mean thing to ask a writer.
It was.
yeah, actually, for it's I don't think that it got a full ancestry, but I wrote about the Songo,
Mm.
who are I think a new race of dwarves that live in the Mwangi Expanse, and the NPC that I gave them is based on my grandmother who had passed away like a little bit over a year ago, like a year and a half ago. So hopefully she stays in there, and my grandma's a part of Pathfinder now.
Oh, that's
That's
wonderful.
an amazing thing, isn't it? What a legacy.
What's the NPC's name? We'll look out for
Uh, oh gosh, I can't remember.
it.
But it is. I will say that the name that I gave her is very close to her actual name, which is why I can't really pull it apart.
Absolutely. We'll look out for a grandmotherly dwarf. Um, so you've done a lot of writing. Did you do sort of narrative writing and things before you wrote for RPGs, or has it always been game writing?
It's mostly been RPGs, but before that, I would do like semi-structured role-playing writing. So, like the kind of narrative, kind of like back and forth writing that you would do with like two or three people
Hmm.
online. Uh, and from that, I wrote a little bit of fiction.
Hmm.
But the most writing by far, by volume, that I've ever done is games.
What's because a lot of people who would have written fiction might not be familiar with sort of the skill set of writing for games. Like how is it different writing for how is it different writing for say a book like Mwangi Expanse to say writing just a piece of fiction? What are the things you have to do?
For a book like Mwangi Expanse or anything where you're writing like setting and lore, you're writing all of the things that you don't put in a novel or a short story. So all of the things that build the framework of the world, you put into your lore book. And then you have all of the action, which you just want to like set up for people. And it's that like idea of setting someone up for success. So they have all of the information they need to make something interesting without having to try and tell like, yes, in let's see, like 14 whatever AR, this happened in this location. It's like, no, I've already done that for you. Just tell me about your character that exists within this framework.
Yeah.
And getting out of that, like, this is one of the cases where you want to show and not just tell.
Hmm.
So you want to show like all the work, all the history of a place instead of just being like, it's implied, don't worry about it.
That's really interesting. Do you know, I don't know if I've ever thought of it in that way, but of course, all these books are like reading an author's notes, but not the story, because you're like you say, you're setting the story up. Which I've never thought of it that way. It's really interesting. We got a question from the group actually, from the chat. If you want to have a question, Stu literally asked what is Allie's favourite Paizo creation to date, just as Dan asked it. So you're clearly of one mind. But Chris asked, because obviously you have done a lot of writing for many people, and Chris, aka Alakal, was interested to know if there are any big differences between working with Paizo and working with Wizards of the Coast. Or was it a similar sort of
None
process?
that I can talk about.
Right. Well, there we go. There's your answer, Chris.
Yeah. They would all be very behind the scenes, but I feel like the way that Paizo and the way that Wizards of the Coast operate do play a lot into like the differences that you see between the two games.
Hmm.
Yeah, Chris said he figures a lot of it would be under NDA, so yes,
Yes.
yeah. And we do appreciate all of this because there's a part of your mind, I'm sure, that's thinking, can I say this? So yeah, but I think Chris is happy. He's a lovely fellow, and there we go. That's the answer.
Oh, good on him. I was going to say, let's talk a little bit because I don't want to spend the whole thing to about more. I do want to spend the whole thing to about Mwangi Expanse. I'm really excited.
He really does. You're doing very well, Dan. I'm proud of you.
So we're so this is a spin-off from our actual play podcast, and that is currently in the Mwangi Expanse playing the Slithering, and so I'm kind of I've been scraping by on the stuff that exists from sort of first edition and the little bit in the world guide, and I'm anytime people want to do a side quest, I'm happy for them to do a side quest while I wait for the Mwangi Expanse book to finally arrive so I can have. I'm very excited.
Hang on a second, Dan. Is that because you've been throwing some criticism the club's way for taking our time to get to the Slithering? Have you been engineering it yourself? Wait.
I'm having my cake and eating it, aren't I?
You heard it here first. Good heavens. Well, yeah.
Kidboy will get a lot more detailed in a few weeks' time, I'm sure. So let's talk about stuff. Let's talk about Strength of Thousands, because that is coming out in a couple of months. I think we have. So the Fist of the Ruby Phoenix is coming out in one big block next month, as they're bringing out all 3 books at once because of shipping problems. And then after that, we're straight into Strength of Thousands. You worked on book 1 of it, am I right?
Yes, I co-wrote it with Eleanor Farron, who's usually my editor and was now my co-writer, and that was a little bit weird, but really interesting to like work together on something instead of working together but not really on something.
Yeah, Eleanor's great. Eleanor's knowledge of the world is crazy. We've had her on the show and she knows everything. So what is Strength of Thousands? What's it about?
Well, the part that I wrote at the beginning starts at I don't want to invoke this, but at Harry Potter meets the school from the magicians, where, like, as adventurers, you have a little bit of magic and you're learning basically, and it's a really interesting framework for starting adventuring at level 1 that I probably would have never thought of on my own, even though it's kind of obvious, but not really. And yeah, the part that I wrote is what can I actually say about it? It's just I tried to make it a little bit fun and lighthearted while implying that things could get more dangerous later down the road. But for right now, you're just in your first year of grad school, basically.
Because it's a long running adventure, isn't it? The idea it takes place over years, so you're sort of setting up episodes. I guess NPCs that you write in this will age and develop along with it. It's fascinating. I think it's really interesting to take the idea, because we've had plenty of stories about wizard schools and school, and they tend to be, for better or worse, partly because of Harry Potter, but there's other things as well, but they tend to be based on a very kind of English, really, boarding school idea of kind of that's what a wizard school is, and that's kind of because I guess we've gotten a lot of our ideas through D&D and through that kind of thing, that you sort of picture it as that. So to take it and to put it in Mwangi and give it a completely different cultural spin, I think is really fascinating. I think that's what makes it really stand out from what would have just passed there. I don't know if there's a question on that. I'm just really interested in it.
Because we spoke about it before on the show, didn't we? It's such an interesting idea, and the setting and things like that. I mean, were you aware of that sort of differentiation? You must have been, that it's sort of this. You've got Harry Potter on one side, and yeah. Did you want to sort of do something completely different, or?
I try to do a little bit less Harry Potter and a little bit more magicians because you are basically in grad school. You're
Uh-huh.
supposed to be older, you know the basics, but this is like building it up. It's the beyond secondary school where you actually like specialize, go into like your field, you start doing like internships basically, that kind of structure rather than like we're in our first year or second year of like middle school or high school or something. It's like I am a precocious 13-year-old just going out into the world for the first time.
Amazing. I'm really excited. Eric Mona said at PaizoCon that he thinks this is one of the best APs that they have made, Paizo have made in years. Like there's a lot of excitement for it. Um, I'm very excited as well. I think it's gonna be an excellent one. Um, should we
Well,
should we pivot away from Paizo? Because we're like so many of these things are like have NDAs and things that aren't out and
there,
um,
there is. We could do a quick question which sort
oh,
of
have you
links
got
into this.
questions?
We have got a
Absolutely, yes,
question.
please.
It's from long-time Dangerling Gwot, and Gwot asks. He asked a question first, but he's made it more refined now. He said, "Sounds like you created some whole worlds and books, which you have. You know, you had an incredible sort of range of writing. What is your favourite type of thing to create? Sort of setting, ancestry, class, specific magic item, or something else? You know."
Usually it's like an overall setting because that's when I can actually make a playlist and I can like refine and narrow things down and know exactly what's happening. Like if you were to I can look at my Spotify account. I do have it open right now. Uh like I have a playlist for a game that I'm hoping to start working on in the next couple of months, something like that. Uh, and the playlist for it is called Saltwater Taffy and Broken Flip Flops.
But
And
of course.
yeah, and like the just being able to set that mood and that setting for like gothic Atlantic City at the end of summer when all of the tourists are leaving and you just have the people that live there that are left that don't really do anything when there are no tourists around and the whole city just kind of dies for a little while. So like making a playlist set for that. That's a lot of sad pop punk.
I mean, that is. I love the fact that you've got this relationship with music that's so intertwined with your writing. You know, setting a playlist that makes it evokes that feeling. Can you? Oh, you mentioned it a couple of times. Could you give us a couple of tracks from this latest one? What sort of things on that one?
Uh, yeah, let's see. We've got the song that inspired it, Boys of Summer, but specifically the re recording of the cover by the Ataris.
Yes. Great.
Nice.
Let's see. Memory by Sugar Cult. Favorite record from Fallout Boy, because no one can tell because my figures are up there. But I have little Fallout Boy figures that like hang out over my desk. Let's see. What else is on here? The Taste of Ink by The Used. Movies by Alien Ant Farm, which just a lot of kind of sad and morose pop punk that might get happy one day. Who knows? But probably not.
This is like my record collection from sort of late mid to late 2000s. It's great.
I was going to say, I mean, even if you weren't an incredibly talented sort of author and writer, you could be a DJ. You know, you could just rent these players out. They're amazing.
I tried once. It didn't work out, but it's okay.
Yeah, we're getting a lot of love for The Used. There we are in the chat and things like that. People are sort of loving that sort of side of things. And obviously, yeah, with the obviously the music. What would Stu ask? What would your dream writing job be? I know we sort of touched on this, but what would your dream writing job be?
I think it would be working as like a narrative designer on like a BioWare game.
Oh,
But in tabletop, I think I might have gotten my dream job. You should keep an eye out on some Afrofuturistic Kickstarters that are happening.
ooh.
There should be announcements soon.
Okay, we just got a very exciting little future
Very
rumor.
exciting.
Very
Oh,
exciting.
we will definitely keep an eye out for that, and we will talk. Or please let us know when it comes out, and we will be shouting all about it because that's.
The Kickstarter's currently running.
Is it?
So
Is
you
it?
What
could,
is it?
yeah,
I know that. I think I know the one you mean. The name is escaping me. What's it?
it's Into the Motherlands.
Into the
The
Motherland.
motherland. Very good. Now, Steph is at pop away for a meeting, but if one of the Dangerlings wants to pop that in the chat, I'd obviously like to support Kickstarters and stuff like that. And Gwat finally says, interesting, pop punk Mwangi Expanse?
No, I did try to get wrestling into Strength of Thousands. It didn't work out, but it's kind of like the recipe is there. So if you want to cut promos at a particular part that I wrote, it would be perfectly in line for my intentions.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, amazing. Thank you, Chris. There's the link to the Kickstarter, Into the Motherland. So, yeah, go and check that out and support. Very good.
The Motherlands is beautiful. I didn't know you were involved in it. Yeah, the art on it is gorgeous.
Technically, no one knows quite yet.
Exclusive.
Oh, my God.
You won't tell anyone.
We won't tell anyone. It's only the internet watching. It's fine.
Well, let's talk about your own stuff. Let's stop talking about Pathfinder stuff and things like that. Let's talk about what are you working on at the moment? What are some of your proud projects right now?
I haven't gotten to work on them very much, but there are 3 projects that I'm hoping to finish up pretty soon. It's Heist, which is a one-shot Forged in the Dark game with most of the Blades in the Dark stripped out of it for running heists, like action movie heists, like Kingsman, Gone in 60 Seconds, like all of the Oceans movies, but probably especially Oceans 8. And I made that into a game.
Wonderful.
Wicked.
I love a heist game, and I love and actually that's one of the things with Blades of the Dark is I like Blades in the Dark is I like that system, and I like the flashing back to kind of plan things, and my initial thing watching it is, why is this not just a heist game? Why is because there's a lot of extra narrative put on top of it.
I think when I first told John Harper that I was working on heists, he's like, that's exactly what Blades would be good at. So like what's in it? How's it going? It's like, well, John, I took almost everything out of your game. And he was just like, perfect, I love it. And that encouragement has carried me through a lot.
Fantastic.
Amazing.
Oh, I love a heist game. I think they're always, we've had a couple of heists on the show and in private game stuff. There's so much fun. There's so much sort of potential for hijinks and capers and all sorts of stuff going on. Love it.
Let's see, what else? I have Parliament of Supplements, which was a Kickstarter that I ran forever ago. And then I got a job, and then I got a bunch of freelance. And now I can finally go back and start finishing off like the last handfuls of sections, making graphics and everything for it. And it's hacks for a bunch of different games that I've played over the years and liked enough to add more content to it. So there's a small town for Monster Hearts 2 that's based on where I went to high school. See, I wrote new rules for hunting for Vampire the Masquerade for V20.
Ooh.
That I think actually ended up getting mirrored in 5e, but I didn't actually read most of the 5e book. I just started seeing things that I wrote, and I was like, oh, I think I'll stop reading this.
That looks familiar.
And I wrote some like household and estate rules and spells that will be for Pathfinder.
Nice.
Because someone bought one of the very large goals or rewards, and asked for estate rules and household spells for Pathfinder. And at that point, I was just like, well, I still don't really like Pathfinder, but I mean, I guess I'll look into it. I guess I'll work on this thing. And now I'm here with.
Amazing. What's your so what is your game then? If it's not Pathfinder, are you a vampire player? Are you
I actually don't really have a game. I just I like telling different kinds of stories. And like sometimes I'm in more of a high fantasy mood, or sometimes I'm in like I really want to play more Blades in the Dark, and I really need to play test the third game that I've been working on, which is Misbehaven, a Prohibition era urban fantasy.
oh wow.
Oh wow, that's really cool.
It's Forged in the Dark. It's just I need to work out some new rules for it, like for caring for your community, because you're basically a criminal trying to live among normal people, but it's probably the only way you can earn money and probably the only way that the community can survive. So it's just like this cycle of give and take that I have to finish figuring out.
Wicked. That sounds really, really interesting. And I mean, we've had a question from Eric, which kind of links into this, and it's you pretty much answered it. But that he asked, "What is your favourite setting to play and write for?"
Probably one that I haven't actually written anything official for, which is Cyberpunk.
Oh yes, love Cyberpunk. We're currently doing a little campaign in our private games. So yeah, why Cyberpunk?
I guess because it just has everything that I like from every other setting. Like there's the fun supernatural elements that you can get from fantasy. It's technologically driven instead of like magic. Uh you get to explore a lot of interesting themes about like found family and community and like trust and everything happening in the world right now, more or less.
And rain and neon. Lots of rain and neon, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, I do like neon.
Oh, yes, you are speaking to my very neon-drenched heart. Because that was the future we were promised when we were kids, and it looked like it wasn't going to happen, but finally it's happening, and I'm embracing it in every way I can. Everything's got to be RGB. It's got to be neon. It's got to be that. Fantastic.
You've mentioned sort of community quite a lot of kind of games that are built around building communities and sort of found family and things like that. Is that quite important to you in a thing in a setting? Because adventures can tend to be quite individual, especially fantasy adventures can be very much about individuals and things.
No one has ever put that together, including me. So I guess yes, it's very important to me. Like having characters that, while they have a lot of power, realize that they have as much power as they do and try to give back or do something for the rest of the community is kind of important.
Amazing. So where I guess we say where can people find more of your stuff? Where can they find things if they want more Allie Bustion in their lives?
I tend to retweet a lot of art and post about things that I'm doing on Twitter. That's at MadPierrot, MIDPIERROT. You can buy my games on madpierrot.itch.io. I have a Patreon, patreon.com/madpierrot. And I've been on TikTok a lot lately, mostly talking about tabletop games, also posting videos of my cat when he decides to interrupt me being able to work. And that's Le Mad Piro, because Mad Piro was already taken.
Oh,
What?
It was like one of two usernames that I wasn't able, two places where I wasn't able to get my username.
what can people get on your Patreon? Is it bits of game design and things?
it's a lot of game design. Most of it I can't talk about right now, so it's a little bit barren. The last big thing that I did was stickers that I had designed because I had promised stickers forever ago, then wasn't able to like work on them. But you can get these
Oh, sick.
Yeah, really nice.
wonderful sparkly stickers that are
Wonderful
now
sparkly
on.
stickers.
They're now on my coffee if you want to buy them.
They're on your coffee?
Yes, it's a co-fi.com
Ah,
slash shop slash metro.
of course, of course, of course.
Excellent.
That sounds fantastic. I am definitely going to check that out. I love sparkly stickers.
Actually,
Uh,
I just remembered I have all of these links grouped together on a link tree, so it's way easier to find
Oh, that's so good.
things. Here
Excellent.
we go.
oh,
And
Amazing.
now it's in chat.
there it is. There it's in chat. Thank you very much indeed. So you can go follow that chat to see all the amazing stuff there.
Oh yeah, you can see the other thing that I'm into is mechanical keyboards. So I decided to start making my own keycap set because I got let's take this apart a little. I got the DSA Astrology set from Drop. Really, really loved it, and now I want to make my own based on Fallout Boy, as you can tell.
That's amazing. Do you say so? You what? You made that keyboard, or this was a custom sort of you bought?
No, this one is just Razor Huntsman, but I am going to eventually replace it with like a nice little 10 keyless or 65% that I put together myself.
That's amazing. Yeah, I've used a mechanical keyboard for years, and I love them. Because for a while everything went very soft key, and I was like, no, this isn't how keyboard should be. It should be clackety clack, and you should feel the stuff. And what is it about mechanical keyboards that appeals to you so much?
I realized that I am much faster writing on a mechanical keyboard, but not linear keys, which are usually the best ones for typing. It has to be like a clacky one so I can feel that I've actually pressed a key and I don't just ghost over it. And that, it turns out, is the best and most accurate way for me to be able to finish writing quickly. So really, it's just about making myself more efficient at writing.
That's amazing. Yeah, because I mean, it's the classic images of a writer sitting there and clacking away on a typewriter, because we don't have typewriters anymore. So it's, I guess, the next best thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you could get a mechanical keyboard that has like typewriter keys, but now they come in like pink.
Yeah. Well, exactly. And and neon, and you can have backlit, and oh my, it's all there. He says is rather dirty backlit blue keyboard. I'm afraid you'd be horrified, Ali. You'd be horrified at how I've let
Oh
my.
no, mine is covered in cat hair and like food dust.
Yeah, it's the
You
food
just can't
dust,
see
man.
it.
I tell you what, and for a long time I couldn't get my hair cut from before Christmas, so there's still these sort of long hairs.
Oh,
Oh, look! We're
So
sharing.
much.
We're sharing. All right. So look, I
Sharing.
keep meaning to clean it, but then I turn my computer on, and then you can't clean it because your computer's on, and it just happens.
That's the other beauty of like having your own built mechanical keyboard. You can just unplug one keyboard that you've waited like 2 years for it to arrive and plug in a different one and then clean the first one.
Oh my goodness, Ali, I might have to buy another mechanical keyboard now, and it's your fault.
That's how it starts.
Yeah, that's how it starts. I'm gonna have a
And
wall
then
of
you
them by the
gotta
end of
get nice switches. I have my nice like folios that I'm eventually gonna install on something.
That's amazing.
And then
Yeah.
you gotta get keycaps, and they have to be nice custom keycaps. You could get like, there's one artisan keycap that has waffles in it with like syrup and butter that I want to get for an escape key. Not
that's
actual
like-
waffles, but little miniature like
Little miniature waffles.
waffles.
I like this a
Yeah.
lot. Because of course this is all really important, because being a writer, this is your workstation.
Yeah.
This is your if you're a carpenter, you'd have tools, and this is your tool.
Yeah. I mean, I've already got the like nice big uplift desk, so I gotta work on the keyboard next. Got my like 2 monitors on stands.
I did. Do
So
you know what?
obviously the keyboard.
Obviously, the keyboard, yes. I mean, anyone who's seen my desk will know that I also favour a little sort of, I always wanted the bridge. I wanted a bridge when I was a kid. I wanted a big screen and lots of stuff going on. That's really cool. I mean, do you get a chance to, because you've got a phenomenal work rate, like absolutely phenomenal. You've got so much sort of writing there. Do you find much time to sort of like do other things, or do you find yourself working sort of a lot?
Uh, Actually, part of the reason why I don't stream is because I play video games while I'm writing. So, like, with my friends, I'm kind of infamous for we'll be playing Apex Legends together, and while we're in queue or while I'm dead, I'll just be writing on my second monitor.
Oh, oh my God.
I just don't know how to stop working.
That I wish that I could do that. I think as the years.
It's not a good way to write, but it means that I get to do things with my friends.
Oh, terrific. Actually, there was a question earlier, and well, it was an important question. Now we're gonna have to apologise, Allie. This is a question for Dan, and it is the legendary leggings check.
Oh, well, I'm back on form for. I don't know how the
Good.
green screen is going to withstand this,
We
because I have a new green screen now. But I have leggings again.
Yay!
They are. Whoa. Whoa. There we are.
Look at that.
Back on the pink and the pink and gold. They really glitter as well. It doesn't show up on the camera.
They really do. They're like the most fabulous sort of 70s cocktail you could ever imagine. That's absolutely wonderful. And and then a question that was posed, really, but it's when is Paizo going to write Dan into the law?
Oh, maybe one day.
One day. It would have to be some sort of, I don't know what character you'd be. Probably a sort of a legging salesman. I can imagine you being a bit sort of Khajiit, trying to sort of sell your sell my leggings. Would you be happy with that, Dan?
Maybe there's room in Grand Bazaar. I'm the kind of shopkeeper that dies in the first quest, aren't I? I'm very much the person you shake down for information. Progress the plot. Oh, that's wonderful. I'm just looking at your itch at the moment, and I love the GM-less tabletop game about buddy cops, Spitfire and Straight Lace. That's a wonderful.
I think that was the first game that I ever released. It probably needs an update or two. But, that one was really fun for learning how to build relationships the first time in a tabletop game. So yeah, if you want a buddy cop game that's for just 2 players, there's that.
That sounds amazing. And just as I thought that, Chris popped up in the chat with also that sounds amazing. It's really cool. So you just sort of, do you draw inspiration just from anything by the sounds of it? Like you've got such a creative mind. Yeah. You're kind of like, yeah.
It's a lot of I wanna be able to play this very exact thing. So I have another GM-less game there called oh gosh, what is it called? Oh no. As the World Ends, which was basically I really liked Train to Busan, and I wanted to play that as a tabletop game and explore what happens in an apocalypse. And then I was like, but that ending scene was really, really good, where you find out as someone I think it's okay to spoil a movie that's gosh, 5 or plus years old. At the very end, when you find out, oh gosh, just a zombie becomes a zombie, they were their best and most happy memory. So then I built a mechanic around dying for the first time, where you do something to pass on that little bit of happiness and hope that you have to another player. And then I kind of built that into Heist. So I guess my sad game about the end of the world is what helps me make my not sad game with the death mechanic that everyone remembers and is desperate to use in every situation. I wasn't aware that cinematic deaths just by their name would make people want to try and use them. But yeah. they really like trying to die when they play Heist.
Wow, that's such an interesting, isn't it? Because you give players the tools, and they're like, "Oh, that's so cool! I'm gonna try and die." Like, what other adventure do you ever have though?
I can't think of any other game where you well, the only game that I can think of where you would want to die was a campaign written by a friend of mine where dying gave you better and worse stats. That's the only other game where I've seen players try to die.
Yeah, roll the death dice.
I love your attitude to making games. Like, everyone sort of, when people talk about making games, it's sort of like, how do I write for a big publisher? Oh, you just have to make games, and then it'll happen. Whereas you seem to genuinely just love making games, and you kind of, the working for the publishers is just something that's happened, kind of as a byproduct.
It's like, well, I would like to make money, but I mostly want to make money so I can keep making games. Because unfortunately, I need to eat food and like buy food for my cat occasionally.
Oh, can we meet the cat? Is the cat there? I live
I think
vicariously
he's
through other
sleeping
people's.
somewhere.
Is he somewhere? Yes. Well, it's classic cat, isn't it? When you actually want them around, they're nowhere to be found, and then when you've got a deadline, they'll sleep on your keyboard.
Usually he comes in when I'm doing anything that's streamed, so I'm not sure where he is right now.
Oh boy.
Well, people were mowing their lawns and he doesn't like the sound of lawnmowers, so he's probably hiding under a bed.
Oh bless.
Very reasonable.
Yeah, Dan does the same thing.
Yeah, I do.
He does, yeah.
My bed doesn't have any space underneath it, so it's a nightmare.
It's incredible, yeah. It's only from this angle that Dan looks normal. He's actually he's like paper. It's extraordinary, but,
Oh. It's like Paper Mario. Totally understandable.
Absolutely. It works.
It's true. And, won't even say what happens when, bonuses and coins and things like that. Well, this has been amazing. Thank you so much, Allie. Sadly, we are coming up to the end of our time. It has rocketed past, sort of obviously for the show. Do you want to tell us the link tree again? Thank you so much for popping it in there. But what should we be looking out? What are the top things we should be looking out for in that for people to peg again?
The link tree is linktr.ee/madpiro. Once things actually get announced, both from big publishers and things that I'm working on myself, they'll pop up in that top section. Otherwise, like keyboard projects and ways to support me are on there, along with charities that I believe in.
Fantastic. So we give your accounts a follow and find out about the incredible stuff you're doing. And I'm super excited to find out more. And because obviously, there'll be a time where you can actually talk about some of these things, and we can be like, "Oh my god, that's amazing!"
Like the thing that I stayed up all night writing that I can't talk about, but I think I did a good job. And one hint that I think I can give is I wrote some things that are based on Jujutsu Kaisen.
Ooh.
That's it. That's all I got for you.
Oh my goodness, that is. Consider your whistles wet, everybody. That sounds amazing. Well, yeah. So, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been an absolute pleasure. You've been a delight, and thank you so much, and thank you, Dan.
Thank you very much. I've shout out a couple of things happening on the network this week. We are still playing The Slithering. If you are new to Danger Club from watching this video, go onto our website, dangerclubpodcast.com, and you will see the episodes of The Slithering. We're only about 4 or 5 episodes into it at the moment, so you can jump straight on at the beginning of the story and get caught up. And back.
Shania gets enough porridge for her and all of her retinue.
Is it vegan porridge though?
Yes, it is. Yes, it's The
Nice remembered.
better remembered than Shania, who I've forgotten on some of the back ones. Shania ate some of the monsters.
Well, that was before she was a vegan.
Okay.
It's a character arc, man.
Monster eater to vegan.
Although, as we described, flesh-warp monsters are technically vegan.
Technically vegan.
Because they're grown.
Caragor does raise an eyebrow across the table and goes, "Yeah, babe, you know the new thing that we're both talking about?"
Yeah, of course.
Caragor looks really worried. He goes, Does that mean I have to become vegan as well?"
No. You do what
Okay,
you want.
good.
Okay, it's okay. Like, you can eat whatever you want. That's okay. I would never take your carbs and your stuff from you. You know.
With the spoon.
And
with the
porridge with lamb shank for Sir.
Back in.
So you can jump straight on at the beginning of the story and get caught up.